Hey everybody, it's Cheryl, lead Off Leash K9 Training. It's my Tuesday Q&A. It's also my Tuesdays with Tioga, which this summer is going to be more about Tioga because I'm taking some time off and we'll be doing a bunch of traveling with my family and him, lots of camping, backpacking, outdoor stuff, road tripping. So there might be some fun stuff to do on the road with him, and it might be helpful for people out there in YouTube land and Facebook land to see how to travel and do things outdoors with your dog pretty easily. So I'm going to be doing that this summer. All right. I am going to jump right into questions. Actually, there's something I wanted to talk about first. And this is something that came up this past weekend. I was with some friends, and I'm not going to say too much about it, except for there was an inquiry about this person's dog who was, it's a puppy. I saw a photo of it. It's just a puppy. I bet you it's not even 6 months old. And it bit the vet, and it's getting nippy at other people and interactions. And come to find out that the owner of the dog is kind of having maybe a little issues in their relationship. And so certain people don't want to, I suggested you should tell this person, hi, Meg. You should tell this person, I'm just telling a story that happened to me over the weekend, something that I heard about, asked a dog training question, and come to find out that this dog is a puppy and it's already bit the vet, and it's not even probably 6 months old. But the person that owns a dog the couple that owns a dog are having some issues. So the one friend that asked me about it, and then somebody else chimed in and said, oh, I don't know if I'd bring that up, that, the dog could be put down. But the dog could be put down. So if people are living, hi Meg, if people are too afraid to tell somebody, hey, you should work on that with your dog because it will be put down, and they're worried about the person's already in kind of a, maybe an uncomfortable position, having relationship troubles, that they don't want to add more stress, and the person's sensitive. Well, I just kind of think that's BS, and I want to call that out, because if it were a child and this child was doing something bullying, you betcha somebody's going to address that. So if this puppy, who's not even, looking at the photos, probably not even 7 or 8 months old, if this doesn't get addressed, this biting and this nipping that's starting aggressively, reactivity, not just play, this will lead this dog to being put down. It won't be able to be rehomed, and they need to start working on it now. And I don't care if people feel like they don't want to hurt anybody's feelings by mentioning this to their friend. You got to tell the people. You got to tell them the truth, because what's going to happen is the dog's going to keep doing what it's doing. It's only being trained with positive reinforcement, which works great when you have a puppy or a clean slate dog, but this is not a clean slate dog anymore. It has some issues, and it's pushing boundaries, and it's trying to bite people. So if this doesn't get addressed, this dog probably will end up biting somebody, and they're not going to want it anymore, and they can't rehome it, and it's going to be put down. But right now they have this window of time. It's like a ticking time bomb. They have this window of time to actually address the issue and deal with it. Instead of being afraid to mention that to the friend and sweep it under the rug, this dog's life is basically at risk because somebody's afraid to mention it to their friend because they're sensitive. So I just needed to bring that up, because if you know somebody like that, or if you're dealing with something like that, it's a life. It is a 4-legged life. So don't discount that and do the work that you need to do. All right, enough of my rant. Hey, Paige, I'm going to jump right into the questions now. My first one comes from somebody in Halifax, Canada. Actually, I have 2 Canadian inquiries this past week. So she said, I have a 6-month-old Chesapeake, and he is very smart and eager to learn, very food driven, which is great. I cannot for the life of me get that darn dog to stop counter surfing! ! I feel I've done it all. I went out and got an e-collar and watch him like a hawk and give him a little zap when he jumps up, but it doesn't faze him one bit. I've had it up to max power. Oh, okay. I've had it up to max power and he still didn't flinch from the e-collar. Makes me wonder what kind of e-collar you have. So-and-so from Halifax. I recommend Dogtra, or what I use is the Educator or the Mini Educator from e-collar technologies. Those collars don't go from 0 to 6 or 0 to 10. They go from 0 to 100, and some of them go from 0 to 120 something, depending on what style you get. And those collars have a high shocking level, as well as a bunch of low level stuff. So I wonder what kind of e-collar you have. So if it's not one of those, or if you didn't spend at least 175, 200 bucks on it, it's probably not a very good collar. There's a couple, Garmin makes one that's okay as well. But I prefer either the Educator or the Mini Educator by e-collar technologies, or a Dogtra collar. So I'm going to assume you have a not very good collar. Sorry. But let me know and get a better one. And if you do have a good collar, let me know and I'll readdress this, because my first thought was you didn't go high enough for the counter surfing. I like to call it one and done. I was just talking to a peer in a dog training network, and we kind of worry about going too high and hurting the dog. Well, I like to do a one and a done, especially maybe not for counter surfing, but I still do it. But for car chasing or reactivity, things that could potentially get the dog killed. And counter surfing, they could get killed. So I don't want to discount that. You know, what if there's a whole bag of chocolate and a knife that, you know, anything. They could ingest the chocolate and get sick. They could get some sort of, I saw a video of dogs up on a range, a stovetop, and they turned, their paws were up on the range and they were trying to get at some pots and pans, and they actually turned on one of the burners, and the burners caught a pot on fire, and it was all with a home video camera, and next thing you know, the house is filling with smoke, and then the cops come in, and then the fire department comes in, and luckily nobody got hurt. But counter surfing can be very, very dangerous. So do one and done. Turn it really high. Turn it to 100 if you're on an e-collar technologies Mini Educator. Turn it to 100. Go outside the window. Peer in, you know, wait. Here's the food sitting on a table. I'm the dog. Here's the food. And the dog is going to look at it, and at some point it's going to make a choice, and it'll smell, and then right there, 1,000, 2, 1,003. Oh my God, the dog is never going to go near that counter again. You might have to do it again at different counters, but it's never going to go near that counter again. So try it, go high, one and done, get it over with, and you won't have this trouble again. Don't just go lower numbers and kind of nag your dog on it. It doesn't really work. So that's what I would say. Let's see. He's a very stubborn boy. Oh, he's a Chesapeake, though. There's a saying about Chesapeakes. And you can train a golden retriever with your voice, and you can train a Labrador retriever with your hand, and you can train a Chesapeake Bay retriever with a 2x4, because they are super stubborn. I've had a couple in my life. They are really, really stubborn, which is kind of why I like them, too. They're challenging in that way. They don't really want to work for nothing, you know, and they're picky about what they work for, but they're also super food driven, and they're crazy for toys and swimming. So maybe instead of just using food, use some fetch or frisbee or ball. They love a good ball. So I sometimes will carry a ball, or if I'm hiking, I'll get a stick and I'll carry that along, and I'll just walk along with the stick in my hand, and my dog's just staring at it, and I'll say sit, and he'll sit. I mean, I can do all kinds of things when I'm carrying something that he wants to retrieve. So think about adding something like that, a toy, a retrieving toy, into your bag of tricks with him. So anyway, he's very stubborn. He will do quite a few commands, but refuses to go into a down unless lured. All other commands, he does them immediately first time. Will not go down. I wish you were closer. Okay. He's quite a different breed. I've never had a dog test his limits to try to be number one like this boy. He's a Chesapeake. They're hard-headed. You need a 2x4. But as far as the down goes, teach him down with e-collar pressure. if you have a good e-collar, which I just talked about, use the e-collar pressure along with the lure. So if he doesn't know what e-collar pressure means, I don't just put an e-collar on and start zapping a dog for everything they do wrong. I don't do that at all. Unless they're about to kill a person or a dog, I don't do that at all. I do low-level e-collar training, so it's similar to leash pressure. How do I turn this annoying pressure off? So I use the leash, I put the e-collar stimulation on, I would say, or if you want to use the food lure, either way. So the e-collar stim is on, and this is either leash or food lure, and you would say down, pressure on food lure, the dog goes down, yes, and he gets the treat. So do the lure with the pressure. Down, lure, e-collar, down, yes. And eventually at some point you'll say down, and he'll go down, and you'll say yes, and you'll give him the treat. If you say down, pressure, and he doesn't go, then take your food lure. Just keep doing it over and over until at some point you say down, just the e-collar pressure, and he starts to move, and you're like, oh my God, he's got it. Versus down, sitting there, lure. So do them together, pair them, e-collar pressure, lure, same time, I don't know, 25, 30 times, and then pause on the lure for a second. And you got to sometimes at some point put your hand away as well. Pause on the lure, say down, e-collar pressure, and see what happens. And chances are you're going to teach him successfully what e-collar pressure means. And then it becomes, he has to go down because he wants to turn this leash pressure off, or the e-collar stimulation off, I mean. So it's more information for him to go down. It's not just the food lure. It's actually e-collar stimulation, and he doesn't like it, and he's going to go down because he doesn't like it. So try that. All right. That's from Halifax. Right, Paige, it might not be a good fit on the collar. That's a good point. So Paige Rushing mentioned that the e-collar, and I'm so glad you brought this up, Paige, the e-collar might not be tight enough. So if you're doing this from home and you haven't had anybody help you, that e-collar, those stim points need to be tight. They can't be just dangling. So when you go to put if here's the collar, let's say, the strap, when you go to put your finger in there, it needs to be pretty much finger tight. It can't be dangling. It needs to be tight. Like if I take dogs out and we're going for a bike ride, I usually loosen it 1 or 2 notches because it's hot day, they're panting, and it's tight. Otherwise, it's tight. So when you do this, if you rode horses or anything and you know what a cinch feels like, it needs to be, no more than sticking your fingers in there. It can't be any looser than that, because what happens is here you are, the leash is the collar's kind of dangling and it's loose and it's over here and it's not touching, and then and you're using it. Come, and you're turning it up, and pretty soon your dog just shifts, and now those stimulation points are making contact, and you've gone to an 80, and you say come, and your dog freaks out. So make sure you have a good fit. Thanks for bringing that up, Paige. That's a really great point. Okay, my next question. This is from Megan. I have 2 sweet male dogs, both neutered and so energetic. They both weigh 55 to 60 pounds. So mastering proper walk is necessary for me, and we live in Wyoming, so off-leash hiking is really appealing. They know their basic commands very well, and even more advanced ones when we are home. Once there is more interesting people, dog smells, my commands mean nothing. I work with them daily and give them plenty of playtime to get energy out. Just so you have an idea, we mastered the house and fenced yard leashed heel very quickly. The front lawn is where we are now. It is proving to be difficult with distractions. I work with 1 dog at a time. I want to be careful not to fatigue their word association with heel. I'd really like to know your product opinion of e-collars, and also I'd like to purchase any guide or how to implement the e-collars. Okay, so I was about to say you should get an e-collar, because especially if, being in Wyoming, you want to have, it's like being here in Colorado. Off-leash dogs hiking, this is the way to go. It's the best. So this is a really good question, and it sounds like you're doing a fantastic job. And now I think you should invest in an e-collar. I've said it before, I like Dogtra, but what I mostly use is e-collar technologies. The Mini Educator which runs about $175 maybe on Amazon, maybe a little more. If you have 2 dogs, you can get a 2-dog model. So you have 1 remote with 2 collars. But if you have a partner or somebody else that might take 1 dog and you might take 1 dog, you might want 2 separate systems. And eCollar Technologies is an amazing company. So I would recommend calling them and seeing what they suggest, because then you can pair 1 collar to a different remote, blah, blah, blah. I don't need to go into those specifics, but eCollar Technologies and ET300 is the collar I would recommend. And I do Skype sessions. I'm happy to book one with you and talk about how to do it. I also really enjoy Larry Crone's book. It's available on Amazon. It's pretty cheap. He probably doesn't even know I'm recommending it. I've recommended it to a lot of people. It's a quick, easy read, and it just will give you the basics. It's Larry Crone, Krohn, and you go on Amazon and just put in his name with e-collars and his book will come up. And I recommend that book if you don't have a good balanced trainer in your area. And you can, I don't think, Megan, you told me where you were. And if you did, I might have missed it, but maybe you can send an email or something or another message, and I'll see if I know of any trainers in your area. But if you can't find a good balanced trainer and you don't want to do a Skype session, which is totally fine, get Larry's book. It'll really help. And get a Dogtra or an eCollar Technologies ET300. So, hi, Susan. I hope that helps you. If you have any more questions, let me know, Megan, and keep up the good work. And remember, like an off-leash e-collar heel is really kind of, it's a tough one, because every other command ends, like a sit, the dog's butt hits the ground, it's over. A down, the belly hits the ground, it's over. A recall, they come to you, maybe they just stand or sit, it's over. But a heel is ongoing. It could be 5 minutes, it could be 5 miles, it's whatever you decide it to be and whatever you want it to be. So I always start my heel with the word heel. And when I'm starting to train a dog on heel, every time I apply leash pressure, I say heel, and then the leash pressure comes on, heel. And then eventually I don't have to say heel so much. They understand heel means like get next to me. But I say heel pressure, too far ahead, heel pressure, too far back, heel pressure, out to the side, heel pressure. And I do this with a prong collar. It's awesome. I do it for like a day, maybe 2 with a prong collar. Then I put the e-collar on and I do the exact same thing. I say, dog gets ahead. Now I'm doing stimulation and prong work. I say heel, pressures are on, they're in place, let it off. They get off to the side, heel, pressures on, let it off. And then eventually I get to the point where maybe a day of that, it just depends on the dog really. I'll say heel, just use this, oh, and they line back up with me. I'm like, oh my God, they got it. And if they didn't, I'd say heel, e-collar pressure, they're not getting it. And then I put that leash pressure back on. So that is a really great way to like layer those 2 pressures, the stimulation and the leash pressure, into working with the heel. But remember, heel's tough because it's ongoing. I start out with the heel, we heel for 5 miles or 5 minutes, and then I say break, and they can go off and potty or do whatever they want to do. And then I say heel, and they're back in again until I say break. So be gentle on yourself. I wouldn't worry about using the word heel too much. I use it a lot in the beginning. Like I said, every time I put pressure on, I say the word heel because I want them to know what it means. And I have a dog right now who's not even been here 48 hours and she gets it. She got it within, oh gosh, probably less than an hour of walking with her. She knew what I wanted. It was awesome. So now we're working e-collar stuff with her. All right, my next question is from Allison in Calgary. And she says, leash reactivity with runners, bikers, and dogs with lunging and barking. So I'm wondering, is her dog lunging and barking or the other dogs lunging and barking? Either way, I'll answer this question and it really doesn't matter. So leash reactivity with runners, bikers, and dogs with lunging and barking. I'm using the e-collar to correct as soon as she notices anything but still having troubles, especially the last half of the walk. So actually I am curious, are the other dogs lunging and barking, or are they both sets of dogs lunging and barking, or just yours lunging and barking? So let me address the first. If both sets are lunging and barking, those dogs are going to be lunging and barking from far away. So I would give more spatial distance. If you see reactive dogs headed your way, get off the bike path, move over, put your dog in a sit. Just give more spatial distance between the reactive dogs headed your way, because it's going to help your dog. It's pressure. E-collar pressure, leash pressure. I talk about pressure. Trainers talk about pressure, but space and distance is also pressure. So I can get right up in somebody's face and it's going to make somebody want to back off. Same thing with the dog, right up in it. It wants to, it's like, whoa, get out of my space. This is my bubble. You're in it. I'm uncomfortable. So spatial pressure is real, especially for dogs. So if you see reactive dogs coming, move 15, 25 feet away, whatever makes your dog not want to react. And then slowly over time, you can get your dog closer. So that's the first thing, if those dogs are reactive. Now, if all the dogs are reactive, do the same thing and then correct. Be 25 feet away. If your dog's still lunging like crazy, be 50 feet away. Get to a place where your dog's not crazy lunging and barking at reactive dogs. And then the third part kind of goes back to the first question I talked about, which is I'm using the e-collar to correct as soon as she notices anything. So the timing, I don't know how your timing is. Hopefully your timing's perfect. And if I'm going to assume it's perfect, you're not going high enough. Go higher on the e-collar. One and done. Get it over with. People like to monkey around at 20s and 30s. Well, I went to a 30 on my dog. I'm like, go to 100. Get it done. I know it. People are afraid. They don't want to hurt their dogs. I get it. But there's more chance of your dog being hurt and maybe put to sleep if they actually get after a person or a dog. So that 3-second high level, I've done it with dogs. They're fine. When it's over, they're fine. They learned a really good lesson and they're fine. And then they start making better choices. It's like we were talking about that Chesapeake, and the Chesapeake, when I was talking about the food earlier, here's the food, the dog goes, it's just about to open its mouth, you zap it, it pulls back, it never wants to go near that counter again. And the next time you do it, you really want to watch, because the dog will go towards the food, it'll sniff, and then you'll see it go like this, and you're like, yeah, double thumbs up. Dog made a choice, came in, smelled the food, and said, nope, I don't want that. And that's where, oh my gosh, there's so much celebration in that moment when your dog is tempted and uses self-control and it makes a good choice. And so e-collars help dogs learn this. They help dogs learn this. So back to this question, I'm assuming you're having good timing with your dog that's being reactive, but if you're not, then make sure you are. So here's the mayhem and here's your dog going after. It's kind of the same thing. I mean, the dog, usually dogs, it's not always this way, but dogs that are just cruising with their people, their ears are kind of flat and they might be panting. And then and this isn't across the board, but this is helpful for some people. I tell this to clients, they're like, oh, now I know what to look for, and it helps. So, and here comes another dog. Mouth closes, ears go forward. So it's like, kind of like this. And that's the moment where if your dog is going to go ballistic right after that, that's the moment to do it. At some point though, dog doesn't go ballistic. So you want to do the one and done and get it over with, and then wait and see. And if you're really worried, put a muzzle on your dog. Make sure you really trust the other dogs you're seeing and let the proximity get closer to see what really happens. I love muzzles for not only keeping dogs safe, but it allows you as the dog handler to have more confidence to let your dog make some choices like that. If you never have a muzzle on and your dog is dog reactive, you're never going to let it be quite close enough to really see what's going to happen and if it's going to make a good choice. All right. I hope that helped, Allison. If it didn't, please write another comment or send me a message and I'll get back to you again. And I have one more question from Meg in Crested Butte. wonder how much snow you have because it's really dusty here. It's pretty bad. That's partly why I want to be gone this summer, a lot of it. Anyway, Meg asks, how do you teach a dog that sit means drop your butt right where you are, not come to me and then sit? This is something I break down just in, like, it's like clicker training or marker, yes training. So I would just get a real solid sit. No. So when I say that, I mean, no sit or sit or sit. It's just standing there. Get to where your dog, you say sit, and their butt hits. And you're standing right there with them, right in front of them. Sit, yes, treat. Sit, butt down, yes, treat. Sit, butt down, yes, treat. 25, 30 times. So it gets quicker and quicker because sometimes it'll be sit, butt down, yes, treat. So you want to get sit, butt down, yes, treat dialed. Then what I would do, I mean, there's probably many ways to do it, but this is what I would do, is I would back up maybe 6 inches. And if the dog comes forward, I'd say nope, and I'd walk back into it, and then I'd back up again. And if it came forward, I'd say nope and walk back into it. At some point, the dog's going to stay there, and you're going to back up 6 or 12 inches, and you're going to say sit, and the dog's going to sit, yes, treat. Do it again, 6 inches, 12 inches, 2 feet. That's what I would do over and over, maybe 50 times, 25 to 50 times at each, space. And pretty soon, just practice it walking. So my dog Tioga, when we're walking along, I'll say sit. He's that Chesapeake. He's stubborn. He only wants to do it when he wants to do it. If I'm carrying a stick and I say sit, boy, howdy, does he sit fast. But if I'm not and I say sit, he slow, we're walking side by side. This is him with 4 legs. We're walking and I say sit and he slows down and I'm still walking and he's like, all right. And I'm usually like 5 feet or maybe 6 feet before his butt actually hits the ground because he kind of slows down like, really? Okay, fine. But if I have a stick and I say sit, he's fast to it and I keep walking and I chuck the stick. So that's a way once you have nailed it without movement, like I said, do it right in front of you, put 6 inches, 12 inches, then start taking it out on a trail when you're actually walking in a heel. And I would slow my pace down and I'd say sit. I'd really kind of slow down. You might have to say it again, sit, have a treat. If he sits, say yes, give him the treat as you're passing him and keep moving. And the dog will figure it out. And it's kind of fun actually, because I'll do sit to down to stand, to sit to down to stand. But it took a while to get to that point. So try that and let me know how it goes. Let me know how it goes, Meg. And I think it's about 9:28. I try to keep these to half an hour. So if anybody has any other questions, let me know. Hey there, everybody. Thanks so much for joining. And next Tuesday, I'll be back, same bat channel for Tuesday Q&A. And like I said, this summer, probably pretty much early June, I'm going to be mixing it up because I'm going to be traveling with my family and doing some fun stuff. And I'm taking a lot of the summer off. So, but keep watching because there'll be stuff posted along the way about traveling with your dog and camping with your dog and backpacking with your dog. And then I'll throw in some Tuesdays Q&A and also Tuesdays with Tioga. All right, everybody. I hope you guys have a great week and great weekend. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye.